Okay, let's look at Thunderstone here. And obviously, there were more boxes that came with these expansions at one point or another. But what I got is I gotta check to make sure I don't disappear. Um, when I bought it, this is what the original owner had separated out. Okay. First thing, components. Cards are nice. I like, and again, I don't know what the different sets come with and whatever, but these little dividers are a nice touch to go with the game compared to Dominion, for example, which just has slots to slide the cards into, and you don't have this extra little cards to help you find what you're looking for after you deal out your deck. The little board, it's better than the Dominion one, but it's got a problem, which is that there are sometimes cases where you have more than 3 ranks of the dungeon and it doesn't hold it all, so you end up with, why do I have this? Now, this may be this is something that came with Dragon's Fire, that's pretty clear, given the box fits together that way. Each game also has its own rule book, or each of the expansions. Some of those include some pretty important little pieces of information you have to know. There's no compendium rule book that just comes with this. I assume they probably cleaned that up. I know Thunderstone Advance or whatever is the new expansion to it. It probably comes with either a progressive rule book or something along those lines, or a compendium of all the information that you need. Other than that, the other little components, the little plastic shields for experience points, those are nice. Well, Thunderstones, actually. The game, unlike Dominion, does come with some additional little ways of playing it. Dominion had a couple. This, throughout a number of the different expansions, has different campaign type scenarios to play, things to eke out just a little bit more playing from the game than you would get otherwise. And I think that's kind of cool. I haven't explored many of them. I think it's got a solo game just like Dominion. But I guess the real key point is, hey, how did the games compare? Now, I don't have all of the expansions for Dominion, and one of the definite things is Dominion feels pretty light to me comparatively, just in terms of how many playings I can get before I start seeing the same combinations coming up again and again. But this has an added advantage to that, because it has basically 3 different kinds of random cards at core. The monster deck can generate other kinds of things, guardians, traps, all kind of stuff like that add into it in a different sort of way. But because this has 3 different types of basically vectors that you can have variables on, essentially, it actually creates more combinations, I think. Because your Dominion set says, okay, you got your victory point cards, they're kind of fixed. You got your coins, they're kind of fixed. And the only real vector is the cards you can buy. And there's X number of them available to you, and you can kind of cross-reference them and see, hey, which ones work well together? How can I figure out what works? With this, you have that in the village cards. And then you have the hero cards, which have to sort of interact with the village cards. And they really have to. They interact a lot more heavily than any of the cards tend to in Dominion. Because, first of all, they sometimes directly reference into each other, like, hey, I affect items or whatever. But also the heroes tend to want to carry weapons. And there are going to be some weapons in the village cards almost invariably. And the different weights of the weapons, the different types of damage they do, the different abilities they have, kind of all work together to create a different milieu for what your adventurers and their equipment can possibly be. And then you have the other vector of, hey, what do I have to deal with here? My goal is to kill monsters. I'm not going to make my points off of the cards that I can just buy. I've got to go out and hunt things down, and I've got to deal with that. And the special abilities on the monsters are somewhat counteracted by the special abilities of the cards, etc. One thing this game doesn't have as much of is as much deck manipulation and handling. I also think it's a little bit less, there's less interference with the other player, except in terms of taking away resources that they could get. Either taking away cards that they could get, especially with the heroes, where it becomes very important as to who can upgrade when, who can buy the higher level heroes just with cash money right off the bat. But also with what monsters you can knock out, and you can take a turn to go knock a monster off the board that you think your opponents might have a better chance of getting some big score off of. And it's just, you have all these different options there. So I think this is actually a much richer game. The only question is it overdone? Is there just too much here? For me, I'd say no, but, I hate Talisman, but I play Talisman with all the crap with it. Same thing if I had Arkham Horror, if I had all the expansions to it, I would want to play with all of them. I wouldn't really mind, except for the setup and teardown of the game. So I don't really feel like there are too many layers here to grasp. I feel like that there's just a richer experience in terms of the amount of, problem space that you can examine for how many different combinations you can get out of the game. I think you can get more from this that are real combinations that have real impacts on each other than what you actually get out of Dominion. Now, again, I haven't seen all the expansions. I understand Intrigue screws with other players more than I'm used to seeing. Things that came out in Prosperity are all very similar, for example. The alchemy things are all very different, but they're all tied together by the fact that they have the potion aspect of it. So it's hard for me to tell, hey, are there, new vistas that open up that are pretty major in Dominion, or, is it just going to feel like more of the same? With the other game I looked at, Ascension, and these are really the only three sort of pure deck builders I think I have. I got some things that kind of remind me of them, and maybe we'll look at some of them. But with Ascension, there just wasn't any real control over what you're doing. That's not to say that there's no strategic choices. Well, there's limited strategic choices, tactical and opportunistic choices that take place. I tend to play this too opportunistically when I'm playing solo like I was. It's not a game that comes across well solo. I don't think on the video it's coming across. I don't think any of the deck builders come across as well as they actually play. There's something really kind of addictive and fun about this style of play, this style of game. And sort of that laying down a new world and how to solve that world and figure out how to optimize your dealing with it. In this game, in terms of the village cards that work together with the heroes and that counteract the monsters that you're actually facing. Oh yeah, I was talking about the deck manipulation. Dominion has a lot of that. And to tell you the truth, Ascension does too. This has a lot less. And one of the reasons it doesn't need a lot of it is because you have the opportunity to say, screw it, I don't want to do anything this turn to get rid of this card. if you made some bad purchases, if you had some starting cards you need to cull from your deck, you're capable of doing that by just taking a turn off. And quite often in this game, even in 2, I find myself in a position where I'm kind of thinking, do I really want to buy that thing from the village? Do I want it at all? So if you have a disease in your hand and you don't have a good hand, that's improved by the odds of that are improved by having a disease in your hand. It's quite often worth just getting rid of, which means you don't have this sort of penalty that you have to try to work your way around and try to buy cards that are going to help you to get rid of problems that you've created in your deck. The monsters, though, like the victory point cards in Dominion, clutter up your deck, and they make a mess out of it, and they make it much, much less efficient. And the only thing that's going to help you there is the fact that heroes get higher level. The more players you have, the less higher level heroes per player, or the less really cool combo cards per player are going to be available. So your decks are going to probably bloat more, or you maybe have to be more disciplined than I am capable of being in the solo game where I can't really grasp what my deck is. Playing it opposed, I'm able to sit there and say, you know what, this is what my deck's meant to do. I don't want to just buy that card because I have the money for it. I don't want to kill that monster because it's going to kind of clutter up my deck too much for what it's worth. I can make those decisions a lot better. And those are nice little tactical decisions within it, but the big strategic decision is usually, hey, what things am I going for in this game? What are my aims? Anyway, like I said, I like this one. If you like the deck builders, you gotta worry that this one might be too much, even right from the start, because it's got so many different vectors, the 3 vectors that you have to cope with. On the other hand, I started with this one, and that may bias my opinion a little bit, but there's something I really like about being able to go out and actually fight things, just from a storyline kind of point of view. Dominion feels like it has a lot less story to it than this does. This doesn't have a hell of a lot. I'm still optimizing my cards and doing that, but I'm doing a lot less of that. What I'm more doing is trying to improve my hand by getting those XPs by going and killing something, so that I can upgrade my heroes. So basically there's a couple of things that I really focus on when I'm playing, and it's usually, can I kill a big monster? Can I get a higher level hero in my hand? And I'm paying less attention to, hey, how smoothly does my hand handle the problems that it creates for itself? Or how smoothly does my deck do that? That can lead to bloat. And I think I have way too little discipline, even when playing opposed, to actually do well in this game. I'm able to do well against my wife, and she's more disciplined than I am. But I think I have I have a capability to be more disciplined towards the monsters and less so towards what I buy, I think. And so we each have our lack of discipline there. Anyway. We've certainly gotten our money's worth out of this with 12 legs or whatever. There's not a lot of games that I do that with. Usually they're ones I don't like terribly much, though. And this one's not too bad for something that I'm able to play a good deal with someone. So, anyway, send it up.